What is going on, Lake Pro Tackle fam? Y'all, I know I said that recap video going over all the tackle for 2024 was going to be the last video. This one I'm going to post right at basically midnight, right before 2025. This is a little behind the scenes of what I caught my best 5 fish on this year. You know, my goal for 2024, personal goal, was to catch 50 pounds for my best 5 throughout the year. I'll let you know, didn't quite happen, but it was super cool catching as many big fish as I did this year. This list compiles most of the 8+ pounders that I caught this year. I didn't even mention just the numerous absurd number of 6 pounders and 7 pounders I caught, but I'm gonna hopefully break down for you my most effective techniques as well as the tackle that I used to basically do it. So, you know, let's kick it off. 2024, the craze out at OHIV is kind of dying, and the JB Thomas stuff is starting to pick up. Recently got in contact with Brandon Burks, who's an excellent guide. He catches double digits like no one else out there. Literally hitting his DD alert all the time, literally all the time. So I was like, man, I guess I got to go out there at least once. And the way they're doing it, they're just live scoping. He is an excellent guide, able to put you on those fish. All you have to do is make the casts. Now, I was very underprepared to go out there. This is January 6th. I drove out January 5th, and essentially he was like, man, he met me at the ramp and stuff. You know, we talked a little bit before with him being from Stephenville, where I went to college. He was always that local guy that just always caught big fish, even without live scope. You know, I was like, man, I know they're catching them on like swim jigs and like putting the lures in their faces, but I really was very underprepared. You know, he actually gave me one of his personal swim jigs that I guess had some mojo on it because it had been sitting there. He told me he caught numerous fish on that one, but it was basically a 3/4 ounce swim jig. Chartreuse was what he was using then. Gave that to me. And let me tell you, it was the most brutal, like 7 hours of my life, not really having the live scope proficiency that I do now, or, you know, being able to translate it directly to that lake, because it is chocolate milk. There's bait everywhere. It's very hard to see if you're not really tuned into what to look for. And Brandon, oh my gosh, he could probably go out there. I actually watched his clients catch probably an 8-9 pounder early in the morning. And I was like, okay, I got some hope. I can go around, hopefully, you know, find one, chase it around. But didn't quite happen like that. I literally went like 6-7 hours without a single bite, without even really seeing a fish. And at the end of the day, essentially, stumbled on a little bit of structure on some tree lines and basically just about to give up. I mean, I was like, man, I've got like 30 minutes left before I'm just going to call it. It's like 4 o'clock. I have to get home. It's like 5 hours to get back home. And I was like, all right, I literally got like 30 minutes left. So I start just flipping a tree line like you would anywhere else in the world, you know, where you find tree lines, just flipping it with this swim jig. It's, you know, it's weedless. You can get through the trees, literally just flipping it in there. I mean, I've got a video clip of me just sitting on a cooler in my boat. And this is pre-tracker days. This is when I had my 10 rig. So if you don't know, again, I used to have a 10 rig, 16-foot John boat, 30-horse Johnson tiller motor on the back, able to get around. And I'm literally sitting on my cooler like this, live scoping around, looking, get to the tree line, start flipping a couple times, and just boom, out of nowhere. I didn't even see the fish on live scope. I just flipped to this tree and caught this fish. First fish that was notable of 2024, second biggest fish in my life. 10 pounds on the dot, 22 3/4, so still like almost 23 inches. Super fat fish. Fattest fish I've ever seen in my life. This thing was literally a circle, and that's just kind of how they're built out there. But really cool experience catching that fish. It was just on a 7'6" heavy rod, Corrado K200, which we don't sell anymore. The upgraded version is the Corrado M200. But that was a really cool experience. Of course, definitely go check out Brandon and what he's doing out there at JB Thomas, catching 10 pounders every single day. Super jealous of that. I can't even imagine what his best 5 of the year is. Moving on, A couple weeks later, this is right after the Fun and Sun show down in Hearst. I was working the Bullshad booth. I met a lot of y'all actually down there. I was working the booth with Mike Buka as well as Bryce Bozeman from Dobbins Rods. And January 21st was the Sunday. I really remember this day because it was frigid cold. I mean, we were all bundled up. I didn't want to go fishing, but I drug my boat out planning to go fishing. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go hop on a lake real quick on my way back in home, and we'll call it at that. If I don't catch anything, I really don't care. But these fish were set up really, really well because of the cold weather. I was out there. I remember putting on my thermal layer, my t-shirt, my sweater, my puffy jacket, and my rain suit because it was frigid cold. This fish weighed in at 8.38, and this is actually the smallest fish that I caught this year. Really drug that average down. I'm just kidding. This fish was caught on the Mini Blades of Glory. I've talked about it enough. I don't need to talk about it anymore. Just a super, super great rig for targeting fish. Saw this fish on live scope, but this fish, what it was doing is there was a really heavy crosswind. And if you live scope or you know anything about live scoping, crosswinds are terrible, especially if the fish is going opposite your crosswind, basically. So I'm getting pushed into the fish and this fish is kind of going behind me. So essentially I had a split second to hit that fish with live scope, see where it's at, flip the A-rig out basically behind me, and somehow that fish and my A-rig crossed in the perfect situation. It saw it, bit it almost under the boat, got that fish in, rustled it in. This was just on, I think it was on an arc rod, 7'9", something like that, with a Corrado 200K again upgraded versions 200M. I just had a few Corrado Ks that I really like because they are really bulletproof reels. If you can find some Corrado Ks, definitely pick them up. But Mini Blades had, I think, 3 1/8 ounce heads because, I mean, these fish were moving, that wind was going, they were feeding up very, very heavy. So very memorable catch, frigid cold. Don't remember a ton of it, but again, here are some pictures, and you can, just see how really massive this fish was. I think this was probably one of the longest fish in 2024. Moving along, there was a time period in February where tournaments already started picking up for the high schoolers, Bennett and Gavin, so there is a big time split between here. After this fish, we're going to go all the way into September because I was so busy with high school, basically had no time to fish for myself. But February 4th, this is not a top 5 fish. This is still an 8-pounder though, 8.13 on a drop shot. And this was, trying to remember, this was on the NRX Plus 902 with a Stratic CI4 Plus. So this was like pre-Vanford, essentially, spinning reel, but very, very similar. Still uses CI4 Plus, still in a 2500 size, 10-pound smackdown, and I believe it was a 12-pound Embrace X leader. Spear point hooks, GP finesse size 3 with a Morning Dawn Robo Worm red flake in a 6-inch version. This fish was cruising around a brush pile, and actually I caught another 6.5 pounder in the same exact spot back to back because I saw them both. I think I actually have the video, I'll overlay it in there. I literally saw this fish on a brush pile, casted to it, caught it, and I saw its buddy next to another brush pile. So the 7'6" NRX Plus here, it's a 902, and I believe it's a SJR. Yeah, SJR. Super, super effective for moving baits. It has that good moderate bend for eye-by-eye shads, and we'll get into that. Z2s, even square bills. Super awesome, can take a lot of force, as well as it's rated for 3/8 of an ounce, which is pretty accurate. I like to throw 1/4 ounce drop shots, and that's what that fish came off of. February 4th. So making the big jump all the way to September. All the high school stuff's done. Bennett and Gavin went to the national championship in July. Kind of cooled down in August, didn't do a lot, did a little bit of fishing here and there. But really September 4th was kind of when everything started transitioning, moving into that fall transition. Everything started turning over. These bait fish are getting condensed. I was catching tons of fish, big fish here and there. So September 4th, this was on that same rod. I recently upgraded and got the Vanford for this 902 here, and it has been an absolute dream. Now, this is probably one of the most memorable fish I have ever caught, only for the reason that this fish had me fooled the entire time. I honestly do not think I should have got this fish in the boat, because I'd been catching a lot of catfish, flathead catfish. If you know anything about flatheads, they are notorious for fighting like bass, but generally have bigger runs, bigger head shakes. Up until this point, this was the third biggest fish I'd ever caught. Now, the swim jig fish, obviously a lot different. It's on swim jig, heavy rod, heavy reel. This is on a 7'6", what some people would consider fairy wand, 10-pound test with a Megabass Eye by Eye shad. Thank you, Nick from Megabass, for sending me some of your personal stash because the bite was so hot. You know, the NRX Plus, whereas catching these fish was banging rock. I'm talking using way too deep a crankbait for what I was fishing, but wanted that really, really just crazy, dredge the bottom, kick up a lot of dirt, make a reaction bite. And this was at like 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, pitch black. See some fish out there on live scope chasing, pinning bait to the bottom, specifically gizzard shad eaters, and literally cranking, wham! My rod loads up, pull into this fish, and it makes the biggest run I've ever had. Had my drag a little loose because I just upgraded, but this fish takes off probably a good 20 to 40 feet. Pulls just a ton of line. I can't even stop it. This was the last fish, last big fish I caught in my 10 rig, which makes it so memorable that, you know, I upgraded to a tracker, and this fish was basically its last huzzah, final goodbye for me. So for me, it means a lot. This fish, 9.89, and literally I fought it like a catfish up until it got to the boat. I mean, I'm literally reeling down, pulling up, reeling down, pulling up, and just trying to like pump this fish because it was making the biggest runs I'd ever had. Again, drag was a little loose probably, but got this fish, and eventually it felt like 5-10 minutes, but I mean, this fight was probably 3.5 minutes. I mean, this fish was just dogging me. I actually got the net out. This was the only fish I netted in 2024, which is the crazy thing, because I never net fish. I feel like if I'm throwing the right lure, if I'm, you know, fishing it correctly in the right way, these fish are going to eat it. And it's very apparent with a lot of the fish that I caught in 2024 that I was throwing the right lures, because most of the time the lures were choked. And, you know, same thing with this. So usually I don't net fish unless it's a catfish, a drum, a carp, anything that I really don't want to touch. You know, I'll net those. So I even had the net out. So this fish fights, finally comes up almost like, you know, sideways, like super tired. And I was like, I had the net out. So I was like, all right, I'll just net it real quick. And comes up, net the fish, and holy moly, y'all. I mean, one of the longest, skinniest fish I'd ever seen, almost 10 pounds as well. So I have no doubt in the springtime this fish will be pushing that 10 plus, almost 11-pound mark. Super skinny fish, and again, very memorable. Caught on that Megabass Eye by Eye shad 902 Vanford combo, which was extremely effective throughout the season moving along. So that one was super cool. Same exact setup, throwing a drop shot, caught another 8-pounder. I think this one might have actually beat out my number 5 fish, which was that 8.38. I didn't take a picture of the scale, but this fish was an 8-pounder for sure, because I put it in my favorites list. Don't know if it beat out that 8.38, but nonetheless, another 8-pounder on a drop shot, same exact spear point, morning dawn, robo worm, quarter-ounce drop shot weight. Now we make a jump into November, so moving into the recent months here. This is November 29th, almost December. Focused on a lot of stuff here at the store. Of course, we had John's seminar. We had a lot of stuff going on with high school as well. Very busy, and I apologize for the lack of a lot of videos. It's been extremely hectic here, trying to work through the USPS situation with rods where your tracking just doesn't update. Total debacle. Anyway, moving along to my 4th biggest fish of the year, 9.39 on a Bling 55 by Jackal. this bait here, I've talked about it a lot. It has crazy rattles in it, and it's great for picking up a lot of bites. Not recently, I guess when I caught this fish, I was doing some testing with the Daiwa Kage rods. Recently had tested the technical jerkbait and the power jerkbait, did some reviews on those. This here is the crank rod, 7-foot medium, and it is very, very moderate. And this is the most moderate rod I have in my arsenal now, but I have come to love it and appreciate it. Definitely changed out reels from what I was using. I was using this guy right here. So this is the Daiwa Coastal 150. It comes in a 7-speed gear ratio. Extremely, extremely smooth, extremely easy casting. I just wanted it in 8-speed. So I eventually changed over to the Tatula 100 SVTW, which is new with that SV spool. But this has no problem casting the Jackal Bling, has no problem casting a Z2, has no problem casting just about any crankbait that you want. It's honestly I was actually catching a lot of fish on this one with a DT10, DT8, DT16 as well. 12-pound Mastiff or Seaguar Brazex, kind of just depended what day was what, and whatever I want to throw on there essentially. So you can actually purchase this reel online for a discounted rate. This is used. It does have a little scuffing right on the top. Of course, I'll do a little video detailing all that if you do want to purchase it. Comes with the box and everything. So definitely check that out. Very, very light wear on that, just a little cosmetic piece at the top there. This fish was very, very cool. And the reason I wanted to upgrade to an 8-speed for my cranking was because this fish was in very shallow water. And since fish can't move vertically in the water column when they're in shallow water, they move horizontally. And this fish took off. I mean, I lost a lot of slack. My rod was like way up here. And like I had to crank down super, super fast to get tension back on the fish. Again, very limber rod, so that didn't help a ton. But was able to land this fish, weighed 9.39, and just super, super cool. Really, really cool fight. Got to get this fish in, tired it out pretty quick, and I actually had a high schooler message us asking about the Kage lineup, and literally not 5 seconds before, I literally caught that fish, and I sent him a video. I was like, this is exactly what I think of the Kage crank rod, because I was doing some testing with it. So definitely check those out. Now, same exact combo with the Coastal. This was pre-upgrading to the Tatula SVTW 100. Also caught 2 more 8-pounders, an 8.25 and an 8.01. One was on a Bling again, and one was on a Megabass Z2, which was, again, super effective in the fall time. Just a bunch of 5, 6, 7-pounders. Didn't even include them on the list. So these two, along with the Mastiff and Seaguar, 12-pound, extremely effective. Moving into basically my last big fish of 2024, my new PB, which, was very surprising to me. This fish really came out of nowhere, almost perfect set of circumstances where I was doing some testing with the Swim Freak again. Now, this is John Shin's favorite Arma joint rod, one of his favorites for tiny clashes and other small glide baits. I was throwing a Clutch Eco on this when the hybrid run was going, catching a ton of fish on big crankbaits, as well as the Clutch Eco, which was just a dream to throw. 16 to 18-pound line was kind of the nice middle line for me, and I was throwing it on a Corrado DC200. Now, this fish weighed 10.9 pounds, barely beating out my previous PB by like 0.05 pounds because I did weigh it in ounces, and I was weighing all my fish on the Bubba scale with the exception of the first 2. Those were on Brecknell scales, so I do have pictures of those, but all the recent ones, basically September all the way to now, I still have my Bubba scale, of course. Super bright LCD screen, great battery life, comes with the rechargeable battery, which is nice. I can just charge it in the car. I was using the Mini Blades of Glory right here, Corrado DC200. I'm not going to go into much detail again. It speaks for itself. I've caught so many big fish on this one, multiple 30-pound bags throughout 2024 as well as 2023 when I first really got on these. I originally was throwing, the Yums, the Picassos, throwing some Hog Farmers here and there. But these guys right here, just super amazing for 16 bucks as well. Now this fish specifically was super fun to catch only because Gavin was there to watch it. We were fishing kind of the same stuff and literally hook into this fish almost right under the boat, followed it all the way, and it just bites. I set the hook real quick like this, start cranking, and it is going around the boat, doing a loop around. And this is my PB currently, like I said. I think I was using, pretty sure I was using the Seagar Abrazex 17 at the time. And I mean, just super, super cool fish. This fish was 23 3/4 inches long, and just super badass. You know, it takes my breath away sometimes. You know, I saw this fish on live scope and I was like, man, that's a big fish, but I didn't know exactly how big it was until it got to the boat. So super cool. That is my best 5 fish for 2024, totaling 48.56 pounds. So very, very close. I needed a 9.82 to get that 50 pounds even. But even though it didn't happen, I have 2025, and of course I have all of you to share it with, and I'm greatly appreciative for that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this little recap video of my best catches of 2024. Again, if you have any questions, especially about like the Kage lineup, give us a call. We'll be able to give you the price on the, well, the price is going to be $199.99, but we'll be able to let you know exactly what's in stock, how we can help you. We've got most of the models in, except for some of the bigger swim bait rods in the Kage lineup. But if you have any questions, leave a comment down below, DM us, shoot us an email, give us a phone call, and we're here to help. So guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time in 2025 LA Pro Tackle. See you guys.